at the same time, we will also have Ruby, of course, answer some questions at the end of the session. So if you have any questions towards this session itself, please leave it either on the chat itself or leave it on the Q&A sessions, and which we will actually answer it at the end of the session itself. All right, so I'll pass it to Ruby to actually present to you today's sessions, and then hope you enjoy today's session. Ruby, please.
Hi everyone, great to see you guys online this afternoon. So today I'm gonna talk about how Lazada actually applies contextual thinking in design, and very specifically that we'll be talking about how we dive into customer value and then how we bring it live through our app. So I usually would like to start with a question in terms of what e-commerce actually strives for, right? So in a lot of cases, people are thinking of things like orders, conversions, efficiency, costing returns, DAU, NPS, MAU, GMA growth, traffic, assortment, all those different concepts and then different KPIs as we usually refer to. However, so those sounds really familiar to you guys, right? So what does those mean? So the reason I'm asking this is because, I mean, if we're translating into all those into sort of human language, what does those KPIs means to customer or to anyone who's not in the field, if they could understand that? So hopefully thus I captured some of the screens from online, some of the screens from my previous interaction with the sellers and the people we work with, so that to bring a little context of the e-commerce that we're talking about. So it could contain a customer browsing things online, searching for the thing they like, and they would be looking for the different sizes, different color, different SKUs, and then they finally think maybe it's a good product and then I can get it, so that they think of payment. And we also have our own payment tool, which I'm already working on it. And then we also have our logistic team, so that the product one day will be packed by the seller and then sent to the warehouse, and our delivery guy will go get it and then send it to our customers, so that it's the full journey. So hopefully if those actually help people understand a little bit the context I was trying to refer to when we're talking about the e-commerce. So in the case of this, I would really like to highlight that the growth of business is often based on a good grasp of potential use context, where I was just trying to illustrate in the previous slide that how do we actually capture each moment when an action is about to happen. So today, we won't be able to go over all those different topics, but I would like to pick one, that one everyone is looking at. So let's look at conversion as an example today. So this one, I captured it from Nielsen Norman, which when talking about conversion and conversion rate, how it could actually manifest. So it talks about, like usually how we understand it, like customer come and get something, or a customer come and become a registered user, and or if we allow them to check out easier, and then also they sign up, they stick with us, and they become a subscription user. So all those are how we're talking about manifest. And then by definition, it's actually talking about the percentage of users who take a desired action. So thus, why don't we translate a little bit as what I've mentioned previously, really putting into the shopping context, what does those mean? So I was thinking of this, well, we kind of have this definition in our mind when talking about conversion. We're actually talking about arouse customers echoing on the value, thus making a business desired impact. So we're serving a certain enterprise or market during their decision-making process, so that a customer actually finding the value and meeting the business goal. This is a very generic value pyramid that you may find online or any other reading materials, that it talks from a value that customer could recognize from functional to a more internalized, which is emotional, that including the feelings, the wellness, and the little bit of the sensation, and then to the more game-changing, as of like life-changing and also social impact related. So I would like to invite you guys to, reflect a little bit in terms of thinking of our topic, right? Conversion. So in the case, when would conversion actually happens? So this is how I would translate it, as of if you're thinking of a case when customer is acting the way you expected, and that means they found a value in the product or service you're delivering, and how they doing the calculation in the back of their mind, because they're going through a decision-making process, right? So they're comparing this, the perceived value versus the asking price. So I'm putting this in a balance, and then hopefully this helps illustrate the idea that I'm gonna share in the following, well, I guess 20, 30 minutes. So when they're evaluating those two, this is the case where, when you hear customer says it's a great deal, and then they just rush for the product and service that you're providing. So it's when the perceived value, it's much more than the price you're asking for. And then by price over here, I'm actually talking about price in a broader sense, which is not only like the monetary price that we're putting over there. Could be effort, could be all those things. And this is just a scenario where, when the balance is acting in that way, this could happen. Okay, what happens like this? So if it's equal, in a customer mind, it's a fair deal. I can take it if it's convenient enough. So essentially, you will succeed, but then it's very much based on, there could be another incentive that you would need to make that happen. And this is the worst case that we wouldn't actually want to see, is the perceived value doesn't weigh that much. So we lost them, which is like, you see how others are staring at the window but never coming to the shop, or people going to your page and then you have a lot of page view, but then no one is clicking on that button and then going through. So what we're trying to do over here is really to adding weight on the left side of this balance by adding value, and specifically talking about the perceived value, so that I'll explain it in a little bit. And then the other side is if we can leverage the price and then make it less heavy, so that make the balance to the way that we want it to be. Okay, so maybe you guys will have a question based on what I just said. This is also something I asked myself previously. We just bad people when, we're trying to manipulate customers, and then we deliver things that they don't want. So not really. So I'm trying to map out some of the common recognized value versus some common recognized efforts in the e-commerce context. And then we talk about money as of spending and also efforts, time, hassle, steps, risks, and all those things that customers don't enjoy versus on the left side. It was exclusivity, fun, connected, sense of belonging, FOMO, sense of clarity and be able to make the connection. Also, the quality of and service quality, and also if the customer is be able to complete the task and job. All those things are the things that we could potentially provide. So I hope you guys have already sort of got an idea where how we can play around with this. Essentially, is we have a large playground on the left side, which we can choose from depending on the context, which the action is about to happen. And then we pick the right value based on our understanding of the customers and deliver it so that essentially we make the balance in the way as we desired. So I have a couple projects that I think maybe can help us shed light on how you could potentially apply what I just explained. So one of the value you could do is understand the aspiration beyond the ask of your customer. So I would like to use this as of an example of a project, actually a product we just launched within half a year, and it was a sort of a great success. It's our pay later product. So this one. So when business came with a question that, whether if we want to bring this financial product to the Indonesia and potentially more market. So how could design actually help? Because at that point, all we would know is, okay, there are success cases where in the different market, which like the Chinese market, that it was greatly adopted by different customers. And we want to understand if in Indonesia it would happen in the same way. So in which case, we would, at that point, we would like to do a research on finding out more and then understanding what a customer is actually looking for at that point, in terms of thinking of such product, what they have in mind, so that we put the weight on the left side of the balance. So what we did is we mapped out all the things that we wanted to understand from the customer. So we want to understand the basis of the country itself, right? So how they understand such financial products, and then how they would act on, by hearing some of the products in the local market already, and how they adapt to it, and are they feel like refusing, or are they feel like they can really benefit from it. And then we also advocate as of bringing this concept to them so that they can play with it and test it out, and to see whether they like it by inviting potential customers to be part of our in-depth interview and into the product development process. So I always call this as of designer's moment of truth, by learning the broader context of the country and their attitude towards life and their values. So it was surprisingly find out before you visit, you would feel like, for that product like pay later, right? it's supposed to be something that was for someone lack of money, but that's not all. You wouldn't actually understand it just without really learning from the customer. So what we found out is there are potentially very much different archetypes that you could looking at. So there are people that are more open and willing to join Las Pilar and use such type of products because they could balance their monthly spending and even actually help them with the savings. And there could also be customer who want to use such type of products just because their monthly income is not stable enough. And there also could be other cases where people's intention of use such products is because they use it for the future goods, which potentially get them a motorbike or get them the necessities, which can bring a better life to them and as a new start. So with that understanding and then putting the different customer into the different sort of bracelet, and you would be able to finding out that what type of product and product feature could actually work for them. So I would also want to share the sort of context I learned and the real cases that I found over there and how a day of life look like for our potential customers and to bring this context to everyone. So reflecting back to what we said previously on the balance, right? So from the previous interview and all of those, we were actually able to find certain values that you can bring to the customers. So as I speak it out already, so there are better life aspirations and job to be done as of completing payment, and also in terms of the clarity of their bills and then their spending and help them visualize it so that even for a market with relatively less income, you could actually help them to manage their money in a better sense. And also, a lot of the people actually talked about how previously that they applied for a credit card and then they feel, well, it's not for them as it was declined. So for those, it's actually also giving them the access from a proper channel, which can bring this higher, I would call it a higher level of value to them. And then in comparison, what they would be hesitating, right? So they could be hesitating about the risk of not being able to repay back the money. And there could be risk of so a lot of people are actually asked whether there are gonna be people calling you or going after you if you fail to make payment or all those like the worries. And there also could be how you apply for it. They understand that in order to get the money it wasn't that easy, so the complexity in steps. So putting all those together, you would also, so in this case, you would also see how you could elevate or really empathize the part on the left, which is in the blue bubbles, whereas the ones on the right. So to make the balance in the way you would expect. So this was actually the material that we created before the product launch by going over all different type of customers, understanding their value, their day of act, and how would they see such product. And from the moment that they potentially will get awareness to how they would go apply for it, and then going over all the files and the process, and finally be able to use it. And while they're using it, what they've been looking at, so the different types would have different frictions and different expectations in this product. So by putting all of this in a specific context, we're able to make the balance even again, and then potentially put more weight on the left side. So this is our, I captured 2 screens from this product we successfully delivered. And from the result, we can see the conversion that's great. And let me actually pointing out, like based on what we learned previously, why it was actually successful. So in the sense that we learned that actually customers, when they're applying, they worry about whether they're getting it or not, right? And also the amount, the value they're getting, and then are they able to repay it back? So we really highlighted all those information that we learned previously and really stepping into their context, so that when we deliver the design, it's right to the point of answering their questions. And also we played a little trick of playing around with the content and to test it out by different A/B testing to see which one would actually make better sense for this local market. And I also want to highlight one of the key screens that we had, key interface we had for Pillager is also when talking about the bill display and the credit. So very interestingly found that in Indonesia local market, how people understand bill is they would be very focused on how much they could repay and how much money they can spend monthly. And they are less worrying about what's coming in the future, as long as it's there as a steady display and then you can track it. So in the case when installation happens and all those, the design is drastically different from any other market when we're just trying to show how much you have to pay in this cycle, or we'll put all the other parts in unbilled transactions, which made it less, I guess, anxious for the customer, and also in a way that they could understand. Okay, and then introducing, I guess, a different other trick that we've, speaking of the value that we've explored, as of this one, restate at key moment to invite customer to look forward. The reason I'm talking about this one is, Lazada has the Lazada wallet, right? And while we have a large annual active user base, but then how do you actually get to the good user base? You still have to invite them to activate, which in the C market, this concept is not so popular yet. I know, recently, gradually, all the different platforms advocating their wallet. But then within Lazada, there are also a couple of things that we did to make sure that our customer understand the value of such product. So on the left side of the screen was our previous OTP screen, which was a very standard screen of displaying, okay, for your account safety, we're gonna ask you to do an OTP process and then activate a wallet. Now what we learned is it wasn't something that, it's not something that they're familiar with. So that this page, when they see it over here, even it's one step, even it's like, what do you think is one step? But from the customer's perspective, it's something I don't know. So in that case, what we could do, right? So they're facing a risk that of not clear what they're getting. And at the key moment, what we can do. So on the right side, it's what we had in terms of the new design. I know we had the small promotion, but besides that, we also packed all the values that we get learned from our previous interaction with the customers, and then also learned from our local ops, how they actually understand the wallet and also why they stayed with it, so that we packed it in a nice manner. And in this key moment, we decided to show it to the customer, so that could actually uplifted our conversion rate. So there are a lot of key moments that you could be looking for throughout the path. So before we do this, I actually mapped out what are the potential, like key, I would call it moment of truth for the customers. So that from you gain awareness to you withdraw your last bit of money and then you never want to engage with us, what the customer has been thinking under that specific context, and what potentially we could show to them so that they would be willing to stay with us, and then to make this balance really moving towards the way that we want it to be, so that in the specific case, as I've highlighted, we talk about future convenience and potential values, and then also bring clarity to all the values by saying it has saved so much money for so many users and it's real. And then we had that statement of each you could save on every transactions, so that help customer minimize their concept of the risk, and thinking of perception wise, lower the sense of the effort, so that they would move forward. Okay, a third trick that maybe I shouldn't call it a trick. This one, help customer understand the price. So I would like to, I guess, introduce the project we had, a product over here. Sorry, the screen might get hindered a little bit. Let me. Okay, hope this is better. So this is product we have in Malaysia and Indonesia, and we're also rolling out for different ventures called Voucher Club. So Voucher Club by concept, it's a membership that selling voucher packages to the customers, where you could save on every purchases. So it joined with the price, and you can get a bunch of vouchers that in each checkout you can use one of them. So in this case, when we first had it, I don't have the old design handy, but when we first had it, it wasn't the landing page where it invites customer to join on the right side, versus the other entry point where customer can join while they're checkout. It wasn't that clear to the customer what they're getting, and in the sense that the conversion isn't that great. So we did a couple round of improvements, and to be honest, we're still in the middle of it. We're still improving our next iterations, but this is our current online version, which is already being upgraded. As of on the left side, when we show it while customer is checking out, we have this little mechanism of you toggle it on while you check out, and then you're able to see how that price being able to deduct it right away in your purchase. And then in changing of text telling you that you're getting how much more vouchers by getting this membership. And then on the right side, where a customer can potentially learn it from their My Account page. Where in this one, we tell them that the total value you're about to get, and then really trying to bring clarity of that, how we come up to that number, right? With the different type of vouchers that you're getting, then you can adding up the total price and telling them step by step and be able to save every time as long as you check out with it. And the last part, when we're talking about price, we specifically mentioned this, that you can get your money's worth in how many purchases. We help them make the connection so that customer can be less hesitate in terms of moving forward. And also adding a discussion module to be able to, right now the content is created by us, sort of working as a Q&A, but later we can invite more diverse content talking about how you could actually save with this to really make the price clear to the customer and then help them connect with their use cases. So in that sense, could potentially uplifting the join rate. So reflecting back to the balance I've been talking about, essentially they want to understand the saving and then clarity on cost, how it's coming from, and then creating those direct use cases so that they would be thinking less of like the cost of the join, and then also less of whether if I'm gonna waste all the money by joining this and if I don't use it up. I guess this is like one or the two little trick I have left for you guys. And we can, there are many of those that we can further elaborate and all think about those together using the balance that I've been talking about. So this one, lowering the broader term of price. So I would also like to kind of share a bit background on how we end up with our current digital goods design. So on the left side, it was our old digital goods page where a customer can come over here and you could buy loads, you could pay your electricity, and you could get data package. But we didn't have a great performance on this as well. So in the case, why is it like why is it that customer would come to Lazada to top up their phone if they're not like super like Lazada fan, or they just come here every day, right? So in the case which I also want to talk about is like when the balance is like really even, and we would like to, so it's almost a fair deal, right? Almost like how can we either lower the price or add weight to the value so that make that the little push to the customer and see if we can make that conversion happen. It's what we found out how contextualized thinking can help us. It's like if you have any engagement history with us, if you have signed up with your mobile number, why is it that we have to let you go through all those steps to buy the mobile load and the data? If we can just, help you fill all the information and make it all easy, just, by one click, you can get it, right? So this is the price that was hidden, that it was not the monetary price, but it's also something that customer would hesitate when looking at an interface and then try to complete certain tasks. In which case we made it super easy for them. We captured the phone number and then we recommend based on the best selling SKUs on the load and data. And all you have to do is buy now. And this module worked so well that we actually end up using it in multiple different places, and including my account, including Lazada wallet. It really helped with our sale. So it's really by lowering the effort, and also a guarantee of your product is not, it's at least the baseline of what market is providing, so that you move customers from other places to here by adding a little extra. So speaking of adding a little extra, I have us adding X factor in equation that I was talking about. So value itself, right? There's always an expected value that customer have in a certain product, but then there's also a way to maximize it. So this is a, I guess I would call it a campaign or activity that we had in the early stages where we're trying to acquire wallet customers, and you're trying to, at least have someone experience the wallet and then activate it and have it over there so that later they could engage with us. So it's actually also a very strategic way that you could have the customer go through it first, and sort of educating them by little step. So what we did is a game was invented as of you're coming here for almost like a lucky draw that you pay with your wallet and you pay very little amount. It's just maybe one of the local currency, like one ringgit, so that you get a chance to win a really, really nice product, which could be an iPhone. So that it was the extra, is the space of imagination that you had. You could potentially win this. Invited all those customers to come over and then participating in this. And I remember it was very successful in the sense that it was sharing everywhere on Facebook, and also when people actually received the product from Lazada and they posted. So in this very specific case, we're adding the value in terms of potential gain, and strengthen the concept of like, forgot to mention that we refund the money to you if you didn't get any prize from the lucky draw. So in this case, it worked, and just by framing the picture to the customer, and then help them understand what they could potentially get. So let's reflect, I guess, on those values and efforts that I've been talking about previously. And I really hope if those can help everyone in the future of their, e-commerce conversion related design. And to think of, at the moment, your customer is trying to do something, what was the thing that they had in mind that can potentially create value? It doesn't have to be all of those. Usually it's like 2 or 3, and with one that was really super important, and they might have a pain. So it's aligned with the sort of customer job, customer pain, and customer the proposition map that I've showed previously. So to reflecting on this and be able to pick the one after you fully understand the context of your design, and share it with your stakeholders. And the last step is you could actually share it with your stakeholders, and last step, you could actually depict it to the customer so that they understand the value you're connecting. So I also thought about how those could be more helpful as of tools that could help us understand a context. So very commonly used empathy and empathize with our customers and be able to understand their mental model. And sometimes we role play as of, I am the person trying to get this and I have limited income and I want to get this fridge, and how would I do, right? And then we also can do interviews and observations really in the local market. And I'm trying to understand their aspirations and the specific moment of act what they had in mind. And then we also could looking for the behavioral data where we have the data mining and be able to find some odd data performance that we can combine it with the interviews and be able to get some of the insights. And we could also have ethnography research that was more high level and less applied over here. Still recommended as of you're looking for something broad and also fundamental and cultural based can be really helpful. So applying this, identify the value and price through a good grasp of the context and work out the balance that I've mentioned, and pitch well to your customers. All right. This is all I have for you guys today. And if you have any questions, guess you could ask online or our host would help us.
Yeah, thank you, Ruby. Thank you, Ruby, for the very informative session. I think we really learned a lot about the conceptual designs, mainly by understanding your customer value. In terms of understanding customer value, to come up with better designs and better conceptual ideas to help in the overall planning of your of the whatever projects you're running out on your side. So we're looking at both sides. Currently, there is no questions about. Let's hold on for another 10 seconds to see if anyone's typing out any questions for you.
Sure. Yeah. Totally.
Lillian, do you have any questions?
Yeah, no questions on my side, William. Thanks.
Okay. I think there's no questions for any other side. Again, thank Ruby for taking her time off to really present on this concept. I think the deck is very, very informative as well as very the basic ideas are there. So if you're interested, of course, I think there'll be a playback available from Lillian's side. Of course, if you're a seller, you're seeing from the seller center side, you will of course see it from the seller center side as a playback. All right. So thank you very much, Ruby, for sharing on this session. I hope everyone has a very good Friday. And remember to buy something off the Lazada platform today as we are celebrating our Lazada birthday tomorrow, the 27th of March. All right, we'll see you together.
Hold on.
Yeah, we got questions suddenly.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so how does this complex translate in B2B software like SaaS? Well, SaaS is so there are different type of SaaS products, right? SaaS is it's quite different from the e-commerce as of it's more for the powered users, and also it's something that designed with a very specific theme, and so I actually I used to work on the CRM tool. So when we worked on it, we also learned that like what our super users are trying to achieve. So at that time, we're learning how the salesperson is trying to selling the products by bringing out the different type of keywords, and then even by if we can use the algorithm to help them and be able to, in their next interaction with others, they could be mentioning more of those keywords. So it's essentially, it's the same concept of understanding what they're trying to do. It's just a different group of people. And also when you're packaging it might be slightly different as it's for a super user. So their understanding of the value might be more, I would always say it's more in-depth than the ones the normal customer we're dealing with. So the entire process and approach could be applicable. It's just a level of, I guess, depth, I would call it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I hope it answers your question, Divanjan. I hope. Yep. So thank you very much. Yep. Thank you for your questions again. So let's hold for 5 more seconds to see any more questions from anyone to actually for Ruby herself. All right. So okay, just to do a side promotion again, we are celebrating our Lazada birthday tomorrow, 27th of March. Okay, do watch out for all the promotional mechanics that you have from 12 a.m. onwards. We have store flash sales and all the way to surprise boxes, as well as very fun mechanics that will be upcoming. Do stay tuned to our mega live show that we have on the Lazada app at 9:30 onwards. All right, so there's no questions. Again, thank you, Ruby, very much for hosting this session. Thank you very much. We are now, of course, thank you everyone for your time, and have a good Friday and have a great Lazada birthday. Enjoy your Lazada birthday with us. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye bye, everyone.